Good evening, everybody, and welcome to RAMP, Real Access Motivates Progress, live Wednesday night podcast. You know, if you see my face on Wednesday nights, it is going to be a great night because we always have amazing guests with great topics and resources for everybody in the state of Rhode Island and beyond. So tonight we are speaking to Raise the Bar Residential Care, a bill that has just passed that has been many years in the making, and it finally passed, and you are going to hear all about it and what it does for the state of Rhode Island. So welcome, everybody, and thank you for being part of our show tonight.
Thank you.
Thank you.
I'd like to go around and have you each introduce who you are and what organization you represent. We'll start with you, Nicole.
Hey, everyone. My name is Nicole Lachlan. I'm the Executive Director for the Rhode Island State Council SEIU. The Rhode Island SEIU State Council is comprised of 4 unions underneath the SEIU umbrella. That is Local 1199 Northeast, which represents a lot of healthcare workers, as well as home-based childcare workers. We have Local 580 and Local 401, which are both state worker unions. Local 580 represents DCYF, DHS, Buda, and a few DLT workers. Local 401 represents almost exclusively DLT workers. And then we have Local 32 VJ, which are your janitorial workers in the state.
Oh, thank you very much. Marjorie, tell us a little bit about who you are and what organization you represent.
Thanks. My name is Marjorie Waters. I work for Rhode Island Organizing Project. Rhode Island Organizing Project has been around for over 30 years. I have worked there for the past 7 years. And primarily our project has been, for the last 7 years, working with seniors and disabled adults on the social determinants of health and other issues that affect Rhode Islanders.
You do incredible work. Thank you, Marjorie. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself and who you represent?
Yeah, good evening, everyone. Thank you, Tina. My name is David Valise. I'm the director and lead organizer for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. We're a coalition of faith leaders, advocates, community residents, congregations of all different faiths all around Rhode Island that are united in the belief that we should be fighting poverty and inequality in the state.
Oh, thank you very much for all you do. So let's get right into it. Nicole, why don't you tell us a little bit about what the bill is all about and why it's so important?
So the Nursing Home Staffing and Quality Care Act, which was passed this year, will do a lot for nursing home residents and workers in the state. The original plan and what we actually got out of the bill are 3 core components. We wanted a safe staffing level, which would be adequate. We wanted to ensure higher pay for the nursing home workers, as well as implement where trainings like infectious control training, for example, would be state mandated so that these workers would have had it. As we know, the pandemic shed a lot of light on what had happened within the nursing homes and how just poorly staffed these nursing homes really were. If we didn't know before, which we all did, the pandemic really showed that. So as the bill is passed, we did implement a safe staffing level. The staffing level in the first year will be at 3.58 hours per patient per day. That is amongst the highest in New England, in line with Massachusetts. On year 2, which is January 1st, 2022, 2023, it will be 3.81, which will be one of the highest in the country. So we are setting precedent here in Rhode Island with those numbers. It also allows for increases to go straight to the workers at a very high percentage. So hopefully the workers will see those increases over the next few years. And then it allows for trainings to be implemented and paid for these workers.
Explain to everybody what the 3.8 hours actually represents.
So, I mean, 3.81 hours, when it gets to that in the second year of implementation, will mean they get at least 3.81 care hours. So that any care they receive from CNA, speech pathology, physical therapy, all those are included in technical care hours. There are some things that are daily, like activities and such, that are not included as part of those hours, but that is because they're not licensed care.
All right, perfect. Thank you so much. Marjorie, why is this bill so important to you? What is your connection to the bill?
My connection to the bill is, as a community organizer, I speak with hundreds of seniors and disabled adults, been doing it for the past 7 years. Nursing home care has always been a topic of conversation wherever I go. As Nicole said, it got heightened with the pandemic. Personally, I have witnessed myself, I've been in a nursing home where there was just nobody around and people were actually calling out to me for help. And that was a pretty devastating wake-up call to the nature of what's going on in nursing homes. Additionally, just this year, my son's partner trained to become a CNA, and without even getting her full license, she was left on the floor with 13 patients to care for. She was completely overwhelmed. She had a variety of issues, which I won't go into, but ultimately, it is dangerous to have so few CNA staff on the floor. To have one fresh out of school and another seasoned one to take care of almost 30 patients is a dangerous situation. And by obtaining this 3.81 hours of care per 24-hour period is an important step, because there were no standards before. There was absolutely no. So although some places did, put in close to that, but there was no mandate to do so. So what you had is sometimes patients who wouldn't get them out of bed. They wouldn't dress them. They, brushing their teeth, brushing their hair, all of those, those ADLs, as they call them, were tough to do when you have 13 patients. So that's what really fired us up at RIUP.
Yeah, it's so true. I mean, you want to get out of bed with dignity and basic human rights. I mean, everybody kind of got a glimpse during COVID of what it was like for the disability community or elderly that are stuck in nursing homes when they couldn't go out, they couldn't be with other people, they couldn't be around other people. They didn't like it. Do you think we want to live like that? We don't want to live like that. We deserve better. And especially our elderly deserve better when they've given all of their years to us. It is now our time to treat them with respect and dignity in their years and their aging years. David, why don't you tell us a little bit about why this bill is important to you and your organization?
Well, for the Interfaith Coalition, it's simple. It's about doing what's right. I think a lot of times people get lost in some of the jargon and data, but it's simply about taking care of frontline workers who are heroes, right? We heard that word a lot during the pandemic. These are heroes showing up to take care of people and taking care of the people that they're taking care of. And for us, especially with faith leaders, as an organization that connects faith to advocacy, we're really connected to the elder community and a lot of the parishioners who we would hear all the time that people in nursing homes are suffering. We've seen a lot of our clergy respond to a lot of the COVID cases in nursing homes. So it hits home. It hits home. And again, we just, we're united in this belief that we need to take care of the people that are taking care of the most vulnerable people. And so it's about doing what's right. We need to support our heroes. And I'm so happy for the work that Nicole and Marjorie did on this bill.
Yeah.
Thank
It's
you.
so true. It is. It's doing basically the right thing for the right reasons. And people don't understand that. What people don't realize is by 2030, our elderly population is going to be almost half of Rhode Island. So that's risk of being overloading our nursing homes and stuff. If we don't start taking care of it and making better examples for them now, what is it going to be like when half of our population is going to be utilizing these services? Or, you know what I mean? It's scary. Nicole, why don't you tell us a little bit about all came to be and all of the work that you put into this?
So the Raise the Bar on Resident Care Coalition is made up of a lot of different organizations. I would say we started this off over 2 years ago, and it was with members. The members themselves came up and really fought hard to get attention around this, to say that this is a crisis, and this is something that needs to be addressed. We did a survey of over 500 nursing home workers, and this was their number one issue, was the staffing ratio being non-existent in Rhode Island, and how imperative it was to giving proper care. They themselves really were upset with the fact that they didn't have enough time for everything that they needed to do, and that these residents did have proper care and were able to live with dignity. So we started, I would say the members really started this and drove it along with the community, and we started the coalition. The coalition is made up of a lot of different organizations, like RIOP, like Interfaith Coalition. It also includes the Rhode Island Coalition Against Domestic Violence, Working Families Party. There's a Senior Agenda Coalition. There's just so many different coalition members who deserve the credit. We had Women's Fund, and they all worked hard to really push this over. There were the different organizations across the state. We had Newport Partnership for Families, who also worked down in Newport County to try to get this through. So I just think it was a good coalition effort, and everybody deserves credit for helping. The members and the community really drove this home, and were able to really say that they were the catalyst to get this done.
That's great. Where does Rhode Island fall for nursing home staffing in the country? Do you know, anybody know that answer?
Currently,
yeah, currently
we're 41st we're 41st in the country before the staffing levels.
That's sad. That is sad that we're way down there, and we have such a high population. From each one of your perspectives, I'm going to go around, but I'm going to let you all think about the question. From each one of your perspectives, what do you think the biggest issue or hurdle was to get this passed? Nicole, we'll start with you.
On the actual bill side, I would definitely say it was the opposition, mostly from the nursing home industry. That was, I'm going to be very blunt about it. They were the biggest opposition. They had some valid things, funding and things like that, but those were all written in to the bill, and they did get funding in the budget. So I will preface with that, but that was the biggest hurdle. I don't know if anybody else can.
Yeah, Marjorie, what do you think the biggest hurdle was, or that you saw?
I agree with Nicole in that the biggest hurdle was the opposition. But also, I think what's important to note is that the that the crisis was falling on deaf ears for a long time. Now everybody loves, everybody has stories about their grandma and how much they love them, but they're not, that doesn't translate into these people are in this nursing home and they need that same dignity and respect as your grandma. So
Right.
that was just really driving the message home. One of the things we did, we had politicians tell personal stories about somebody they cared for. Do you a
Right.
mother, so to really make it personal, I think was very important, to tell stories and have stories told about how urgent the need is for staffing in nursing homes.
Yeah,
And
I agree
I
with
would
you.
just like to
David, what do you, go ahead, Nicole.
No, I would just like to say, along with what Marjorie said about the politicians, both of our sponsors, our Senate sponsor, Mary Ellen Goodwin, and our House sponsor, Rep. Scott Slater, both had personal stories related to nursing homes. And that really, made it all encompassing, and it really told the story from the sponsor's point of view. And like Marjorie said, there are so many stories out there. That
Right.
really helped tell the personal side of this.
I agree. Telling a personal story. Telling your story may not seem much to you, but telling your story opens the doors for somebody else and helps somebody else, because there are so many in the nursing home that their families put them there and forget about them. And it's really sad, that they get put there and they got forgotten about, that we as a society should not forget about them. And they're still human beings and they're still alive and they still have thoughts and feelings and they should be taken care of. Like I can speak from the disabled community, and a lot of my family and friends, and I know it's prevalent in our community, is they walk away. They start, the invitations come less and less, the visits come less and less. People don't realize it until, you know what I mean, but the people who are living it see it on a daily basis. And it's really sad, and we need to take care of them. David, what did you think that your the biggest barrier was to you that you saw?
Well, besides the what Nicole and Marjorie spoke about, because definitely the opposition for us is, I think a lot of people are disconnected from the issue. So hearing the personal stories really helped to overcome that. A lot of times, like I said earlier, we hear these words, hear frontline workers, we hear heroes, we hear, oh, we care about our nursing home workers, but then the bill doesn't pass. And so I think it takes us to remind people that this issue was about equality. This issue was about justice for us. Specifically, one of the reasons, because a lot of the nursing home workers were women of color, as well as they're, again, taking care of our vulnerable communities. So we had to remind people that these are not just words. These are people. And these words have a powerful meaning. Throughout our throughout the work that I do with faith leaders, and throughout all of our collective faiths, all of our sacred texts have many, many examples of why we should care for the elderly, why we need to care for people, why we must care for our neighbors. So we had to remind people that, these are the things that you believe. Please remember that you believe them, so that we can support people who are actually living that right now.
And what people don't realize is, the big movement right now is diversity and equity. Well, our elderly and our disabled population span every race, creed, religion, standard, monetary status that you can think of. It is across the board. So if we're talking about true diversity and equity and we're ignoring our elderly and our disabled, we're not doing it right. We're doing something wrong. And this needs to stop. We need to, change the way we think, and we need to change our perspective and work. I'm going to go backwards this time and ask the same question to everybody. What was it like, that moment, sitting there watching the governor sign this bill finally and giving these rights to our Rhode Islanders and taking care of our elderly? What was the feeling for you, David, and the people around you? What did that mean to you?
It was just a beautiful sight. I think, seeing all of the different communities that came out in support of this bill. I think the coalition is very diverse with a lot of different organizations. I just remember there was a Rabbi Goldwasser, who is one of the faith leaders from our coalition, was standing next to me, and he just kept saying, "I can't believe this is happening." And I think it's a good sign that we are hopefully becoming a more caring and more just society, and we are hopefully more loving because of the pandemic. We are seeing the need in our community, and so it was really, after such a hard year, it was really a blessing to have it happen. So it was great.
Yeah. Marjorie, how about you?
I found it absolutely exhilarating. I've spent the past 15 months at home. I have some health issues, so I really needed to stay out of COVID's way, which I did, but I had to be there for that bill signing. I really needed to see it happen because, as David said, in some ways it was like, this is really happening. They are going to do this. And that was just, I thought of all the people that I've met, who some have ended up in nursing homes in the last 7 years. And I really, this was for them. This was to make their lives better.
Yeah. And how about you, Nicole? I'm sure this was a weight off your chest after all the months and years putting into this.
Yeah, I mean, really, the sheer excitement and the fact that the workers and the frontline workers themselves were finally going to get this done, where they, wouldn't have to worry about having so many patients to them, and knowing that they were going to be able to, make some more money to be able to afford and not have to work so many jobs. Just talking with them and the excitement from them, and knowing that they felt invested, that they were also the ones that got this done. Without them, without fighting, without their constant speaking and our rallies, and them making the phone calls and writing the letters and everything else, I mean, they really are the reason we got all this done, along with community members as well. So seeing them stand up there with such pride, knowing that this is something that they can take ownership of, for the betterment. They really care about their patients. They really care about the residents, and they were happy that they were able to do this for them as well.
It's so true. Like, I couldn't be there because of my health issues and the pandemic, but even watching it at home, it was a proud moment, because even watching it live from my home, I could feel the energy. I could feel the relief from a lot of people. And I was just so proud. What people don't understand is there were so many workers that were switching from one nursing home to another just to make an honest day's living and getting enough hours in. So they were cross spreading, really, going from one nursing home to another. They were literally cross spreading, COVID across the board, but they needed to make a living wage to take care of their patients and to do the right thing. Now that they'll be able to have one job, one care, and not cross spreading it across, Rhode Island. Nicole, can you talk a little bit about that so people kind of understand why this was so important?
And I mean, I'm not going to say that people won't have to have more than one job yet, because I don't think we're there, but we're getting closer to it, right? I don't think people realize just how little nursing home workers make. CNAs, they make, $13 an hour, 14. They're not, bringing home the money that they really deserve to make, doing this grueling work. And this is hard work. This is not easy, and they deserve a lot more. They deserve proper benefits. They deserve better pay, and this puts it in where a lot of increases to COLA and other things will go directly to staff, and that was important. I don't think that the staffing level is just as important, but the two have to coincide, because we need to guarantee that workers are being taken care of as well. So, I mean, this gives them a pathway to be able to do that, and hopefully one day it will result in them having this as their full-time job and not have to take so many other jobs to be able to make ends meet.
Well, it absolutely boils down to, I mean, you look at your mom or your dad or your grandparents, how much would you pay somebody to make sure that they were cleaned, that they were washed up, that, you know what I mean, they were changed, they had someone to talk to, they had the proper living care, because you have to work to support your family now. How much would you pay somebody to make sure that they had the best care in the world? You know, people don't understand how tough of a job. I know a lot of people had to be caregivers for their elderly parents during the pandemic that didn't go into a nursing home. It wasn't easy. There is a thing called caregiver burnout, and you can't do enough taking care of your elderly, taking care of your kids, taking care of yourself, and working all at the same time from home. People saw what it was, and I think it was a good year to celebrate this because people lived it. They saw firsthand what it meant. Marjorie, do you have any kind of stories of anybody living through it during COVID on the outside?
Well, I mean, on the outside, as far as
Anybody
there's a couple
caregiving
of
for
stories.
somebody that was home?
Yeah, I actually, my son's partner, her grandfather was very ill. She was helping to care for him. Her grandmother is disabled, and so she was struggling with that. At the same time, trying to take these classes to become the CNA. You know what I mean? Because that's who she is. That's where her devotion lay, and just it's not just a physical struggle, it's an emotional struggle. And I think sometimes we don't recognize that this is a stressful job, that this is brings forth emotions. Sometimes you're the person holding someone's hand when they take their last breath, not a fan, you know what I mean? So it was really, I think, critical, to see that so many people had to stop what they were doing and care for a parent, or sometimes I know of a case where they pulled somebody out of the nursing home because they were just so freaked out about the pandemic and what they were hearing. So they actually made an arrangement to bring their parent back to the home. That's not easy,
No.
So yeah, it's I helped care for my mom. This was, pre-pandemic. So I know what it's like to care for somebody who is very incapacitated. And I'll tell you, lots of days, bone tired and crying. That's how you end your day.
Yeah. And that's how the nursing staff was. I mean, they were the only contact to a lot of these people, doing a video chat for somebody's last breath, you know what I mean? Or somebody's final goodbye. I mean, imagine sitting there and you're caring for this patient and you realize that on their last moments, they're doing it over video chat. You know what I mean? How cold and impersonal, and you're the one sitting next to them. That this is what people don't understand, that staff is your lifeline to your family members at that point. How much would you pay to have your parents or grandparents' last moments with dignity and respect and having somebody by their side? David, you must have some kind of stories along the way about that.
I just think, I just want to echo the thoughts that have already been said, but it is heartbreaking. And I think, like I said before, my hope is that we start putting more focus on people and lifting people out of conditions that they shouldn't be in. And even before the pandemic, like you said, Tina, like nursing home workers are working hard. They have such a hard job already. And now we are finally understanding, not fully yet, man, but we're getting there. We're understanding how difficult it is and how important it is and how caring it is to take care of someone. I've heard a lot of different faith leaders from our organizations have come out and supported this bill, and they would tell me they would tell me bluntly, we're taking care of all of these funerals a week. we are going to the nursing homes and meeting with people because they think they're going to die. Like, these are real life consequences to poor policy. And so I think I think what came out of it is wonderful, but we need to continue to make sure we're prioritizing people over any other, funding or anything else. If we start focusing on people, we're going to get more good policy to really give people the support that they need. My hope is that when that when we're old, all of us are older and need taken care of, that we have someone who's being supported, because then they will take care of us better. And I think lastly on that point, one of the best quotes that I heard come out of this whole thing was that nursing home workers taking care of someone is what love looks like in action. So we talk in my work as someone who works in faith, we talk a lot about God, we talk a lot about love, but sometimes we don't see it in action. And that is exactly what it is in action, taking care of another human being.
I think you nailed it right on the head, David. And, I think it's so important with like I said, the temperature of our country right now. Let's take color out of it. Let's take race out of it. Let's take religion. Let's take who you care for out of it. We're all humans, and love is love. Love is just the same for no matter who you are, your ability, or anything else. That needs to all be put aside. We all need to change our perspectives and just look at each other as human beings, because in the end, our graves are all the same size. They all look the same, no matter how much money, what color, or anything. Our graves all look the same. So we need to look at each other while we're here on this planet as the same, and we need to love each other just as much. Nicole, you have to have some stories about all of this.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know how to say it better than Marjorie and David as to it, but the workers themselves, they really love this work. This is why they chose it. They're doing this because they love what they're doing. They love their residents. They become their friends. They become sometimes their family. They're the only people they see sometimes, and that's why this is so important. We had some workers who would tell the stories about how, one of the biggest things that affected them and why this was so important to them is they had a patient who was that they were the only ones they saw. And you hear these stories over and over again. They were the only ones they saw. And they used to be able to, sit down, years ago and be able to have conversations and really give them, a few minutes of time a day to show that they were loved and that they had it, somebody there for them. And when everything started happening, years ago, when the staffing standards went away, they didn't have time to do that because their patient level just went up and up and up. And, one worker had told a story about how she, would try. And then whenever they were busy, when somebody calls out, they don't have any time. And the worker and the resident actually got mad because they thought that the worker was mad at them, because they didn't have time to say hi and really sit down and have a conversation for a few minutes. And it was the only person that they saw was their nurse. And, it really touches them. It makes them upset that they don't have the ability to do that they don't have the time on some days to be able to give that attention to those residents who deserve it. I mean, everybody deserves a conversation to feel like somebody loves them and is caring for them.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think it's such a hard and rewarding thing. I mean, they should be making more than somebody who's flipping a hamburger or handing out French fries. Not saying that that's not a good job. It's just they have another life in their hand. They have the mental status of somebody else in their hand. The doctors can come in for 2 seconds, write the bills and write the doctor's orders and stuff like that. But it's the nursing staff that actually does the work, that actually puts the work in and cares for these patients and make them feel loved and cared for and with dignity. David, what was that you wanted to say?
I just wanted to say, like, how powerful it was to see nursing home workers during the day go take care of people, save lives, be on the front line, and then also have to come out to the rallies to really advocate for themselves. And so not only are they were on the front line of both of these campaigns. And so it was just a beautiful thing to see.
Right. It just shows how important their work is to them, how other people are is to them. And, if the world had more of the heart of our caregivers and our doctors and our nurses, we'd live in a better world. You know what I mean? Because the people who care for them the most are what's important. Marjorie, do you have anything to add to that?
And thinking about stories during this pandemic, one of our we call them, community leaders, Sherman Pines, was in a nursing home for a brief period of time. And because he's been part of our coalition in RIAP, he observed, what was going on and things like that. And he was able to talk about that and say, and there's no recriminations. One thing that's very clear when anybody talks about this, they understand how overworked and stressed out, the healthcare workers are. So they'll start up by saying, it's not their fault. There are only, two of them are only so one for the whole, so it shifted from not understanding the plight of our CNAs to even the people within the nursing homes getting it, understanding this is difficult. Yeah. I had a very good friend who was in rehab, nursing home. She actually caught COVID there. Thankfully, it wasn't a serious case. But, they often talked about, food so late, it's cold, needing to use the bathroom and it taking a very, very long time sometimes for somebody to get there to assist them. So those are the ways that the patient may feel, and react to it, but never with hostility towards the staff. The other thing I want to say is these people come in, care for the people that we love, make very little pay, and have to deal with the stresses of the job and then go home to the stresses of their own life, with the fact that they are making so little money that they can barely make ends meet or work several jobs and things like that. And that is, that's not the kind of environment that anyone should have to work in. And once again, by passing this bill, we lifted the nursing home residents up and we lifted the workers up because, as was mentioned, they are overwhelmingly women and women of color. So everybody gets lifted up. The bar was raised for everyone.
I think what the true meaning of this bill is saying that we see you, we care about you, we love you, and you deserve better. To me, that's what this bill meant. I know many people who were in a nursing home during COVID for disability. And one of them said, the nurses would come into her room because she's like me, very, caring. And they would come in and just cry and break down because they're just so overwhelmed and they knew they could with her and that she would be able to lift them up. But it's just so heartbreaking to know that. Imagine going to your job and just breaking down in tears because you just can't do enough. It's heartbreaking. So to me, this bill says we see you, we hear you, we respect you, we love you, and you deserve more. Nicole, do you want to say anything on that?
Yeah, I would just like to say, just to go off of Marjorie's point, these workers came in during COVID. They worked. They did everything they could to try to care for their patients. Were sometimes there when their patients did pass away and had to hold the iPad or whatever it might be, and then they would go home to their own families, and sometimes they would have to go without seeing their families at risk of getting their own families infected. And we lost a lot of residents during this pandemic, but we also lost a lot of workers as well. And I think that that's something that needs to be highlighted, is that there were many that passed away because of it, and we should, honoring them through doing this is very important.
Yeah, I truly echo that, and that's great. Now that we're nearing the end of the hour, I want to give you guys all a chance to give your final comments on what the most important thing about this bill and what you want people to take away from what this bill does and what you want them to see. David, I'm going to put you on the spot. I'm going to start with you on this one.
I'll just repeat what I was saying already. These were essential frontline workers. And I think what I hope people take away is that when the pandemic hit, there were some workers that couldn't stay home, some workers that had to show up. And as we've all of us said, taking care of other people is a necessary and difficult and wonderful job that we should support at all costs. And that also change is possible. This is a campaign that faced a lot of hurdles and had many years fighting. And, props to the coalition and all the workers who came out to really fight for their lives. And we should support people who need lifting up. And thank you, Marjorie, for saying that wonderful phrase, everyone, the bar was raised for everyone. I'm going to take that. So.
And what people don't realize too is a lot of those workers, not only did they have to show up for work, but they couldn't go back home because they couldn't risk bringing it home to their families. So they had a double-edged sword. They had to show up for work and they couldn't be with their families. Like a lot of people, I live with my husband and my son, but they're both first responders. So when there's a pandemic or when there's something going wrong, I'm home alone while they're out taking care of other people. That's what people don't understand about this group of people as well. They're not taking care of their own family because they're taking care of yours. Marjorie, what are your final thoughts?
I just want people to realize that this, for many of our healthcare professionals, it's a vocation. It's a calling, because, you think sometimes who else would hang in there like they have hung in there with the low pay, the hours, the work. So I really think that what is crucial is to continue to fight to raise the pay, because if we don't get these folks paid better, we're going to continue to lose them to other, private corporations. And what I'm hoping with, when people can actually see that there is proper staffing and they are getting the help, that people will come back into the profession. Because I know people who have left it and miss it terribly, but they just couldn't cope with this, with the stress of the job, the low pay, the whole. So to me, first and foremost, let's get these people some money.
Yeah, I agree. Nicole, what are your final thoughts on all of this?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, David and Marjorie did a great job with explaining the most important parts. But I mean, just drawing attention to this work and how important it really is. I think it took the pandemic for people to understand, and we all knew before. This was important work, and to just highlight how much of a discrepancy and how it was between people actually understanding why this this should be really treasured, and people who do this work really deserve better. They deserve better. The residents deserve better, and we have to keep working on it. This was a huge step, and we're very grateful to everyone who really got this to happen. But there's more work to be done, and like Marjorie said, there are a lot of people that had to leave this work because it was too grueling and they couldn't afford to do it, and they really want to come back and they love this work. So I think we have some work to do there, and hopefully we can get it there.
That's great. I want to give you all a minute to give your organizations another shout out and how people can help your organization, because obviously your organizations are doing a lot, not just for your organizations, but you're banding together because we are stronger together, working together with others to pass these bills. So David, why don't you give a shout out to your organization and how people can get in touch with you or your organization?
Definitely. Well, once again, I work for the Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. We are an advocacy organization, and we put our faith in action for a lot of different faith leaders. And you can go to endpovertyri.org or follow us on Facebook. Just search Rhode Island Interfaith Coalition to Reduce Poverty. We have a lot of events and work a lot on different legislation that lifts people out of poverty. So yeah, get in contact with us, and we're happy to put you to work.
All right, perfect. And hopefully you'll be joining the RAMP partnership on Facebook so we can highlight all of your initiatives going forward. Marjorie, why don't you give your organization a shout out?
Hi, once again, it's Rhode Island Organizing Project. We're in downtown Providence. We've worked on many issues, including transportation, housing, health issues, mental health. So we're there, and we want to hear from the community. We want to hear what the issues are, because those are the issues that we work on. So the more we hear from the community, the better we can serve the community. Our number is 401-351-5577. And I would just, a special shout out to the Executive Director, Ray Gagney, who has been an organizer and advocate for his entire working career. He is the only person I have ever met that has been an organizer for over 30 years.
That's awesome. Tell him I said thank you. And again, yours is another organization RAMP really wants to partner with, because we have a lot of customers that are in common. Nicole, give your organizations a shout out.
Yep. So as I told you, I'm with SEIU. So the Union 1199, SEIU Rhode Island, New England is the union that represents a lot of these workers, and you can follow them at 1199 SEIU Rhode Island on Facebook. I also want to just highlight the Raise the Bar and Residence Care. That's also, you can follow on Facebook and see what's going on and what's happening and anything new. And you can also see all the different organizations who were involved in this and reach out to them through that, because we did this as an entire coalition, and we have to make sure that everybody is aware just how important this was to so many different community advocates.
And if anybody doesn't remember any of their contact or their organizations, they can always reach out to me and RAMP. I have all of their emails and their organizations. So reach out to us, and I will put you in contact with either David, Marjorie, or Nicole to make sure that you're getting the right services and the right care that you need. But if you own an organization out there, partner with another organization, work together. We're all not going to meet our goals unless we all work together. Here are 4 different organizations all banding together, working for a common goal. And look, we have legislation signed, and we are moving to better Rhode Island. So I want to thank you all for being part of our broadcast tonight. And I'm going to be sending you all our Red Bag initiative. It's carrying all of your medical information on you at all times. If you want to grab a red bag, just go to www.rampisnclusion.com and grab your red bag today. You don't have to have a disability or anything to use this. My 21-year-old son uses it just because he wants to be an organ donor. It takes the HIPAA law out, and it keeps all of your medical information. And it's a global initiative because we work with FEMA on this. So I want to thank you guys all for being part of our show tonight. I can't thank you enough for all of the hard work you do in all of the communities that you take care of. And if RAMP can do anything to support you, we are here, and we are willing to do that as well.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having us.
Tina.
Thank you for your
Thank you.
partnership.
And I would like to invite everybody back next week, because July kicks off our week of talking to our high-ranking officials and getting to know what they feel about the ADA, disability, elderly, and all and above. We're kicking off starting with the Rhode Island Department of Health with Dr. James McDonald. We'll be talking about ADA compliance, where we stand for the disability and elderly community for vaccinations, and what we can do better to make sure that everybody is taken care of. So join us back here, same time, same place, 7 p.m. next Wednesday night. We look forward to seeing you all here. Thank you guys. Have a great week. And as I always say, don't just sit there, make a difference. Have a good night, everybody.
Thank you. You
Thank
too.
you.